So when I think about transition or a global transition to net zero by 2050, there are a number of things that fall out of that for Australia. The first thing is that in most other parts of the world, this is going to be completely disruptive and dislocational. But in Australia, there are enormous potential for us to benefit from that transition. The first is most of the technologies that we're going to rely on globally to get to net zero by 2050 require minerals or fuel that are actually only either made in Australia or predominantly we have an outsized amount of in this country. So that's going to be the first key thing. The second key thing is that Australia, for various reasons, mostly to do with our geography and climate, have been at the forefront of research and development in many of these sectors. So we're going to have a huge advantage in terms of being able to manage some of this stuff because government, taxpayers, private companies have already come to the table and made huge amounts of investment in terms of getting there. Having said that, there's a lot of other stuff that we can learn from overseas. What the United Kingdom has done in terms of getting its emissions down by 68% and how they got their power grid to do that was fascinating. We're going to have to use a lot of technology that we're going to buy from overseas, whether it's in the transport sector in terms of hydrogen or electric vehicles. And we're always going to be looking at how we can upgrade our grids and the underlying software and technology we use there. So in some senses, that's the massive advantage that Australia has at the moment. The third and really important advantage that Australia can have is that when you look at global emission forecasts, where they're mostly going to come from is as developing countries move up into income brackets that the developed world have enjoyed for a number of decades. We need to make sure that they don't do that the same way that we did, which was with cheap fossil fuels. And the only way we can do that is by providing cheap renewable energy. And that's going to require, and I think the advantage that Australia has with our deep roots in the aid community is for us to be involved, heavily involved in those nations as they start to gear up and make sure that we've got a proper and equitable distribution of that technology. So I think on all those fronts, Australia has a real and significant advantage, and we shouldn't look at this as a challenge or indeed a problem, but rather an opportunity that we need to seize and to seize really, really soon.